People in Clare are being urged to help Cystic Fibrosis Ireland meet its fundraising target of €300,000 on 65 Roses Day, which takes place this day next week, Friday the 10th of April. Cystic fibrosis is an inherited condition that affects multiple systems, including breathing, digestion and reproduction. Volunteers nationwide will be selling purple roses to support fundraising in Dunstore's branches, shopping centres and other participating outlets, including Ennis and Shannon. And earlier, I spoke with the chair of the Clare CFI Branch, Deborah Kett, whose daughter Hannah is living with cystic fibrosis. Deborah, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Ellen, for having me. Great to be here.
Can you start by maybe telling us a bit about, obviously, your own connection to cystic fibrosis through your daughter and the journey she and you as a family have taken, given this is something she and you are living with on a day-to-day basis?
Most definitely. So Hannah was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis when she was 14 months old. She's 23 at the moment. So definitely at the time, around 22 years ago, the prognosis for families and particularly people with CF or infants with CF was very different to what, say, new parents would be getting nowadays. So, like, I seem to remember Alan being taken out of a 4-bedded ward and brought into a single room because, again, for cross-infection purposes, people with CF can't mix with other patients, and being sat down, and the room had been cleaned and there was only a cot and a chair in it. And I remember the consultant standing in front of me saying, "We're very sorry, Mrs. Kett, you're aiming for quality of life, not quantity." And the prognosis then, the life expectancy at that age kind of would have been around 19 years old. Yes, fast forward, and she's 23, and with the help of new medications, scientific research, developments in physiotherapies, things like that, her life is very different now. She was on the transplant list. The journey to get to that point to where we are today was not easy. It is not easy. It continues to be difficult. The treatments that a lot of the CF community in Ireland and around the world are availing of through the Vertex pharmaceutical drugs has changed, but it's by no means a cure. It is still a terminal illness. It's a life-limiting illness. It's just managed better through more awareness, more understanding. Opportunities are different, but they're still not the same as other people that would be healthy.
Okay, so as you say, Deborah, there have been major advances in treatment in recent years, but despite that progress, there's still no cure, which I guess places extra importance on continued research, and in order for that continued research to be done, funding is needed, which I guess emphasises the importance of an initiative like 65 Roses Day.
Oh, definitely. Like in the past, say when we first got involved with CF House and the charity and the branch and other families and stuff like that, you're fundraising for services because that's what your child needs, that's what your family needs. Like, your child is in hospital a lot. They're very sick a lot. You're fundraising for, like, the medications for people with CF are considered orphan drugs, so they're not applicable to a big group of patients, like, say, for patients unfortunately affected by cancer, things like that. So you're fundraising to get services into hospitals, to get services into your communities. And while we still fundraise for services, our direction has changed somewhat because of these medications, because of, as I said, these advances in physiotherapy, procedures, protocols, awareness around diet, etc., etc. So, like, yes, people with CF will live that little bit longer, but now they're facing, like, Alan, like, to put it bluntly, like, Hannah was on, she was struggling, she was dying, she was on oxygen, she was being tube fed at night through her stomach 5 nights a week up until around 17 and a half. Like, she was consuming 10,000 calories extra a week just to stay alive. And that was with supplements, and that wasn't including normal food or anything like that. That was all peg-fed supplements, etc. So while she did take her leaving cert, and it was just during the time of COVID, so she took her predicted grades, college was never an option for her because she was so sick. Like, working, qualifying for anything wasn't an option for her because she was so sick. And then with medication, it became an option. But how do you cope and how do you deal with something that you haven't prepared for, that you never expected to see? So what we're seeing is, yes, it's great that things are changing. Yes, it's wonderful that possibilities are there for young people like Hannah and families with CF. It's now the next step. How do we get to that next step? How do we prepare? How do we get ready? And it's about, like, our young people now, CF, because of these medications, are they able to think about buying a home? Then it's the charity engaging with insurance providers about life assurance. Will they get a life assurance policy or not? Will they be able to undertake a mortgage? It's that step. It's not an automatic. Doesn't automatically happen for people with CF, and that's where we're at right now. Like IVF is another thing, because again, a lot of the males born with CF are infertile. So, and then there's added complications on women during pregnancies because of CF. So it's different, but it's the same, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and you've explained very well there how on the one side it's very positive for the person with CF and their family, and that they're now living longer, but that does present new challenges. For yourselves as Hannah's family, how has it changed for you guys over the years? Has it become any easier as a family, or as you say, there are still potential issues and considerations going forward that no matter how long Hannah lives, you'll always be very involved in her life and very worried about her?
Oh yeah, well I think, Alan, for any parent, no matter how many kids they have and no matter what goes on at home, I think you're always worried about your small people.
True enough. For you though, is that to a more, I suppose, to a closer degree?
It is, because like even this year now, and I want to qualify the next thing I'm about to say by saying this is very specific to Hannah. Like, she's back bleeding from her lungs again. She had an admission for 8 days in January this year. She spent a month on IVs, including that admission for hemoptysis, so that's bleeding from her lungs. That would have been quite common for Hannah in her teens before she went on this medication. So now that is back. We're noticing now for, say, the first 2 years after the medication, there was no IVs, no orals. Now, last year she was on orals every so many weeks as an oral antibiotics. Now we're back on planned IVs every so many months. So in our situation, like I said, I want to qualify that this is just us. I can't speak to any other person or family with CF. We have noticed that there is a slight decline in Hannah's health. That, as I said, it's like pressing a pause button on, like a video or a song or a game. All it did was pause a decline. It didn't stop it. So we're always monitoring, we're always listening, we're always checking. Like, she got her bleeding under control by being admitted and taking medication. But even there, as recently as last Friday, she had a bleed again from her lungs. And so we're linking in with St Vincent's Hospital about possibly looking at a surgical option, which they don't want to do because it's so dangerous. So it doesn't go away. Medication does change how things present, but there are still always challenges.
The 65 Roses Day happening next week. An important initiative, as I mentioned earlier on, Deborah, but this year's fundraising target is €300,000. What will that money go towards, and what can people in Clare expect to see on the day? Where will volunteers be based? The charity has reached out to Dunn Stores units around the country, so we will be in the Dunn Stores in Ennis, and all going well, collection will take place either next week in Shannon or sometime in the future. There will be other, I think, volunteers that have linked in directly with the House in Dublin, and they will be also in Ennis. Again, there's goodwill built up within the community in Clare and other counties around the country, Alan. And volunteers that are not connected with the branch do reach out and offer support, and they do collect on the day. The figure of 300,000 it's going to be a hard one, I think, bearing in mind what's going on in the country at the moment. But like any other charity, I think we've always had, as I said, a good relationship with the public. People have always helped. They've always given, and they've always recognised the faces of the parents or, family members of people with CF, especially even those maybe that are no longer with us. So there's always been that huge level of goodwill between us and the community in Clare. The money itself will be raised to, as I said, help with initiatives such as
IVF, because again, now that young people are living longer, it's not easy to conceive. So there are grants available for young couples where one or both persons would have CF, and then it just supports them on that journey to obviously, hopefully, achieve their own family. Other services would be counselling, other services would be sports grants, etc. And then there's still, there are still transplant grants available, because again, even though we do have these modulators, as they're called, or new medications, not everyone is suitable for those medications. So unfortunately, there is a small group of people that the charity always looks, like they still try to represent, they still try to engage with the pharmaceutical company to advocate, to gain access, to raise awareness around those other new modulators that are coming into the market that are targeting specific genomes or gene combinations that wouldn't have been caught or captured by the previous versions of those medications. So again, there's still a lot of advocacy going on, as well as the grants for those earlier named objectives.
Okay, well look, as you said, it's a fundraising target that might be difficult to reach, but hopefully, given what it will be used for and the importance of cystic fibrosis and the need for help, it will either be reached or very close to it. So that is next week. And Deborah Kett, we really appreciate you joining us this morning to chat about it. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Alan, for your time as always. Have a good day.